job, Justine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to PostCon, our first in-person conference after the pandemic. It's great to see you. So while we were stuck at home during the pandemic, like many of you, I picked up some hobbies. I decided to be a handyman at my house, and my first project was to replace the front door lock I had with a digital lock. I thought it would be cool to just punch the number in, no fumbling around for keys, no searching for stuff. Turns out it was not a good idea. I bought the new lock, got the screwdriver out, took out the existing lock, and that's when things went south. The new lock didn't fit into the existing slot in the door. No big deal. A quick trip to the hardware store. I bought some tools to drill a new hole. Turns out it's not that easy. After 2 hours, I had many tools and a badly drilled hole and a door that does not close. Things have gone from okay to horrible. So why did I tell you this story? Because this translates to how most companies develop software today. Engineering teams jump into code without the right tools and no plan on how to fit these software pieces together. Having the right APIs, the right plan, and the right expertise is critical to building great software. And APIs are not one-and-done projects. They're not afterthoughts. We have heard time and time again from customers that building APIs before writing code has major benefits. So why build APIs first? Well, building APIs first enables developers to be productive from the get-go. To build software systems today, developers need to know exactly what these APIs are and how do they work. And without this information, development teams can waste a lot of time looking for information, or worse, they just get stuck. And developers aren't the only ones who need to understand them. Product teams and QA engineers need APIs to be friendly to them as well. So when you develop APIs first and you do them in Postman, you make APIs not just accessible, but embraced by the whole software team. Instead of combing through source code, QA and product teams have an easy-to-onboard experience. Having a centralized workspace that they can leverage for documentation, tests, and other artifacts all in one place makes a big difference. And with a Postman workspace, QA can understand and write tests, product managers can spec out the API to ensure it works for customers, and while other stakeholders like security and DevOps can also continue onto their workflows. And this is true for developer productivity too. The time required to understand APIs for a developer can be extensive. It can take days to reach a 200 OK with a new API. APIs are key building blocks that need to be maintained and improved. Developers need a place to do that work and communicate that the work has been done. And without it, devs end up using the wrong version of an API, or your critical integrations can break. Or sometimes even worse, your security vulnerabilities can sneak in. And we have heard from customers that a lot of pointless rework could be avoided if the feedback for an API's design could have come in early. So when you develop APIs first, you're dramatically improving development velocity and quality. Backend developers can share a mock over the API before the work is even done. Frontend can start designing their UI, so they are working in parallel instead of waiting. And developers can smoothly edit and communicate changes to an API, preventing workflow disruptions. Quality engineers can catch bugs faster, and security engineers can catch vulnerabilities before they hit production. This means fewer hours debugging code that doesn't work, fewer meetings about APIs with product QA or security, less rework while validating API design, no more messaging or emailing people, no more wading through source code. And all that means is that you lower your development costs. PayPal's story is a testament to this. PayPal is a Postman enterprise customer that has thousands of developers working together to discover, test, and execute APIs on Postman. And we are continuously learning from our amazing customers like PayPal. But not only have we learned this from our customers, we experienced the pain ourselves before I founded Postman. In 2009, I was a coding intern at Yahoo with my co-founder, Ankit. Our job was to take some APIs and build an application on top of them. There was no documentation. The best we had was a whiteboard and some legacy code. And every time we'd ship our app in production, something would break. And the problem almost always was due to the API, or we didn't understand the API itself. So when I founded my first company, we were building apps for iPhone, Android, and the web. And that's where I met my third co-founder, Abhijit. We had the same problem. So that's when I built the first version of Postman and put it out there. And it would be an understatement to say that the idea resonated with people. Today, we have more than 30 million developers who have signed up with Postman. And this number continues to grow every day. Postman users are there in every country around the world. And Postman users are present in every industry as well. We see technology sectors continuing to have a large chunk of developers, but we also are noticing industries like telecom and energy adopting APIs enthusiastically. And now a big topic, top of mind for everyone around the world has been AI. This brings me to the last benefit of API first. We believe when you develop APIs first, you are preparing yourself for the explosion of APIs that are coming your way in the AI era. In our 2023 State of the API report, our respondents shared that AI can improve developer productivity by up to 25%. And it's not just that developers are using AI. We have seen that all of the top AI companies and projects are API-driven as well. Over the past 6 months, we have seen AI-related traffic on Postman increase by nearly 40%, with traffic to some of the faster-growing projects more than doubling. This, of course, includes OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, among others. And while OpenAI continues to have the most API users on Postman, Gemini traffic has grown 5 times over the past 6 months, and Anthropic traffic has grown 9 times over the past 6 months. We are excited to see how the most popular AI APIs on Postman will grow and change over the coming year. Our belief is that the age of AI is powered by APIs. APIs have made AI accessible and available to everyone. And developers don't have to understand the intricacies of LLMs. They can just start using AI through these APIs. Not only developers can consume these APIs, LLMs will consume APIs too. APIs can power these LLMs to do very powerful things. So if your business needs to be relevant in the AI era, you need to have APIs. Having APIs for AI is like having a website when the internet exploded back in the 2000s. So if you're not thinking about APIs as strategic to the age of AI, you might not exist in 10 years. So we're going to cover 3 things today in this keynote that will help you master API first. First, we're going to cover advancements Postman is making to drastically speed up development by reducing the friction on API collaboration. Second, we're going to cover how you can make API collaboration not only possible, but scalable with security and scalability enhancements in Postman. And third, we'll cover our investments in AI that will help you supercharge your workflow. So to start off, I'd like to welcome Justine Davis, our head of product marketing, to the stage.
All right, ready? Thanks, Abhinav. Hi, everybody. I'm Justine. Thanks for coming today. As Abhinav just said, I'm going to cover advancements that Postman is making to drastically speed up development by reducing collaboration friction around APIs. From the beginning, the Postman team have been absolutely obsessed with better ways to making successful API calls, chasing that dopamine hit of the first 200 OK. The first iteration of Postman simplified what you needed to know to execute an API call, instead of memorizing command line flags or needing to know a programming language. The next evolution of Postman, I think slides might be a little off, actually. Can we go back? There we go, OK. All right, we're going to go with it. Ready? Listen to me, and I'll make sure that the next slide aligns. The next evolution of Postman was to eliminate the need to remember what elements are required for your API call. So we introduced collections, there we go, that can automatically generate API documentation. It can define and send API requests. It has tests, and it includes what variables you need, and more. Not using collections would be like me agreeing to host Thanksgiving dinner for 25 people and then showing up at the grocery store without a grocery list. I'm definitely going to make an error. Collections provided an interface between teams. Developers didn't have to resign half a day pinging a human with a question about an API, who might be on the other side of the world, by the way. They didn't have to comb through source code to try to see if that file was the file that was right or not. Before we knew it, teams were prototyping what an API should actually look like and what it should actually do, documenting how to use and integrate with an API, testing APIs to ensure they did what you want them to do and were working as expected, and demoing API capabilities to stakeholders and to consumers, all in collections, simply because they could self-serve what they needed to know about APIs. If an organization adds every API into Postman collections, any developer or development team can see what other teams are doing. But then, as it does, the problem shifted. Developers were creating and sharing so many collections that we were getting demands from customers to help them organize these collections. So we introduced workspaces. You can group API collections together into workspaces and manage access across your team, partners, or the developer community. These shared workspaces update in real time, have a version history of changes, and you can revert back if you make a mistake. So think of this like Google Drive, right? It's really powerful. You can create 1 million documents, 1 million spreadsheets. You can upload 5 million photos, which is really cool. But if you don't organize those into folders, good luck trying to figure out what image 56 or screenshot ABC is without clicking on every single one in order to make sure that you're submitting the right thing for maybe your taxes or whatever you're trying to do. The combination of collections and workspaces fundamentally changed the game from single player to multiplayer for API development. And I can stand here and tell you all of the amazing benefits that Postman has seen, but I think it's actually more powerful to come from your peers. At Dish Network, new team members use Postman to learn how to hit endpoints, write tests, analyze responses, and more. For them, onboarding to a new API used to take 3 to 4 weeks. Now it takes a week and a half. That's been cut by almost 60%. They're shipping new features weekly or bi-weekly instead of every 3 months. And as a whole, they've seen an improvement in the software development lifecycle by 70%. It's very impressive. Or how about WGU? Their testing time has been reduced from 96 hours to 5 or 6, significantly improving developer productivity and happiness. We're absolutely pumped about this. But we know there's more we can do in service of the development community, in service of all of you. So today we're announcing some updates to further speed up your development by reducing collaboration friction on APIs. Starting with, drumroll, the package library that gives you reusable scripts. Yay! Wherever there's code written, there is a need for code to be reused, right? But you've told us that it's really hard to reuse code across your APIs today. This often led to repetitive code, and it's a headache to manage. And while it's a headache to manage for you as an individual developer, when you put that in a team setting, it's actually magnified. because the problem starts to become common logic is only shareable via copy and pasting. And this results in redundant, error-prone, low-confidence tests that have a high resistance to refactoring and sharing. So today we're launching the ability to reuse scripts via package library for individuals and teams. No more repeating business logic in multiple places. Just like sales has the acronym ABC for always be closing, we have DRY, don't repeat yourself. And with the package library, packages can contain business logic or code, which can be consumed in multiple requests by just referencing that package in various places across the team. Change once, use everywhere. Pretty cool, huh? Now I'm going to cover improvements that we're making to collections, the interface between teams to self-serve what they need on APIs. It's super important for us that we don't have to have you change your workflow in order to collaborate on your APIs. You already have a workflow that works when you work on code, Git, or version control. So you can work and collaborate with your APIs the same way as you can with your source code in Postman. You've been able to fork, merge, and add inline comments to source code repositories and pull requests for a while now. This means chats happen in the context of the API element that's being worked on, instead of scattered across chat apps, source code repos, email. It was a good start, but it wasn't good enough. To comment, a user had to switch into comment mode, but then they couldn't make edits. It was annoying, to say the least. So now you can click on the text that you want to add a comment to. You can use an at mention to notify somebody. And then each comment is tied directly to the specific element that's being worked on, highlighted in yellow. And any unsaved changes to the request will automatically be saved by adding a comment. Team members can respond directly to that comment inline, having the conversation in context via a conversation thread, instead of losing context in external communication channels. And you can easily share that comment to anybody else who needs to be involved simply by copying the link. We're also improving how teams communicate API changes so that they also don't lose history over time. It happens to all of us. You might be the one who made the API change and something broke because the comms got lost. Or maybe you used an outdated API and something broke. It's like the worst. Before you know it, that email or Slack about that comms and the change to the API has 50 more emails or 50 more messages in front of it, and we all know you're gonna lose it or not go to page 2 to search for it in your email. So today, you can now communicate changes in your team workspace via a workspace updates feed. So that means that any consumers who watch that workspace will receive a notification with everything that is changed in a summarized view, and they can easily click to navigate to it immediately to test it. Then your API consumers can add comments, they can add likes or reactions, and then they can reference back to that whenever they need. They know that that change will be updated on the workspace when they revisit it. And I'll say this again, it's really important for us to not interrupt your workflow. So we're working hard to meet you where you work on and off Postman. You can also receive these updates via a bidirectional Slack integration to reduce context switching. I know I would absolutely die without my Jira integration where it creates a Jira for my to-dos as I'm going through meetings to meetings, and now you guys can do the same for your API work from Slack. You can automatically preview requests, comments, collections. You can take actions in Slack like watching or forking, and you can receive notifications on monitors, comments, and more. And if you're sitting here like, I use Microsoft Teams, I can't do that, don't worry, support's coming for you soon. So this is great for alerting API consumers in your company. But can anyone think of who else you need to work with on APIs? It starts with a P. Yes. I was going to tell a bad joke about how the answer is in Postman, but obviously we want you to work with Postman too, but somebody got the answer, it's partners. So the problem is the same issues for collaborating with internal APIs happen with partners too, right? You don't want your partners using outdated APIs. It becomes difficult to ensure that they're using the right ones and using the most up-to-date APIs. So we launched partner workspaces that create a secure, access-controlled workspace where you and your partners can collaborate on APIs. And since we launched partner workspaces in late 2022, large enterprises have been using it to onboard external developers faster and be able to reduce that time to first call for their consumers. But you know what? Enterprises aren't the only one who work with partners. Most organizations already have partner APIs. We don't think enterprises should be the only one who get partner workspaces. So today we're adding partner workspaces to our professional plans as well. So that way, anybody who's on those plans can collaborate with their partners externally. So can we take a minute to get pumped about more partner collaboration? All right, I'm not done. When companies work with lots of partners, they maintain multiple workspaces where they essentially have to have nearly the same information in each one in order to maintain isolation between partners. So imagine running a marketplace that has thousands of APIs and partners. Yikes. So we're introducing multi-partner mode for you to use Postman collections to multiple external partners at once. But Justine, the reason I was doing all that manual copying and pasting is because I need to maintain isolation between partners. We heard you. So you can take all that content and publish it once to many partners, and the partner cannot see any other partner's activity. They can only see your team members only. So this provides a sandbox where customers and partners can evaluate and consume your APIs by sending successful requests quickly. So, to recap, we just showed you improvements to collections, commenting, workspaces, and collaborating with partners. Now, to bring this to life, can we give Dustin a warm welcome for his live demo? And I want to do it in a special way for my millennials out there who might know T-Pain. Can everyone's hands go up? And they stay there, and they stay there. I'm sorry, I had to quote T-Pain once, and because he's hosting the after party, and this may or may not be the last time in this keynote. Dustin, you ready?
All right, well, hello. My name is Dustin, as you can see by this big picture of me, and I shall be delivering this killer demo, hopefully. I couldn't be more thrilled to share our improvements to collaboration in Postman today. Before we get there, though, I think it's important to take a step back and reflect upon how the world builds APIs not in an API-first manner. In this horrible, no good, very bad, non-Postman world, let's say my persona is a developer and my name is Dustin. Those are two things that have the advantage of being true. Let's say that I'm an engineer at a large company tasked with building a new API to demonstrate our new AI capabilities to investors. I'm sure no one in this room can relate one little bit. I build APIs not really with my team, but for my team. And it looks something like this. Okay, so I start my day, and I'm already feeling behind. I have messages from my boss, the product manager, and a junior engineer on the team. I click through. My boss, hey, just checking in here. How's the progress on the API? Have we documented it yet? Have we built out key features? When do we think it's ready for the next milestone? This poor junior engineer. Hey, Dustin, I'm just trying to complete my story that I was assigned. How does the query endpoint work? Can you show me a sample command? I can probably take it from there. I just need a little nudge. So I try to be a helpful guy, and I have this mantra. I don't want to be the best fisherman. I want to teach others to fish. So I have this documented API in Google Docs, and I go ahead and share this with the junior engineer. So what does the junior engineer do? She immediately scrolls down, she finds what she needs, and she copies and pastes. So she takes this curl command. It's long. She opens up terminal, and she pastes. And what does she see? Let me zoom in a little. Type unknown, syntax error, failed to parse JSON. Can anyone spot the error? It took me over an hour, and I built the dang thing, right? It's the little line break from the Google Docs copy and paste. So in the best case scenario, this junior engineer has a few hours until she can get to what she wants, the 200 OK. Worst case, days, weeks, who knows? Let's revisit my boss. So remember, he wants milestones and updates and progress. So I guess I'll do this, right? I'll add a milestones tab. I'll complete it a little. This kind of works, I guess. Collaboration, right? This collaborative workflow reveals two key problems. One is collaboration friction. I'm spending my time updating, unblocking, answering questions that die in Google Docs, in Slack, and elsewhere. Two, and more sinister, it reveals an opportunity cost. I'm not building. I'm not making the API better. I'm not even really collaborating. I'm a task rabbit, and frankly, I'm exhausted. If I think back to my mantra of teaching people how to fish, in the best case scenario, I've given the team a few bits of wood, some tape, and a string in the hopes that we can assemble the right tool for the job. Or you can use a tool purpose-built for this collaboration job, the right tool, Postman. So now the live demo begins. When you've used Postman before, you're likely familiar with the API client. Some people think this is the main thing of Postman. There's so much more, but it's also an excellent product to send a request, see a response. So you can send a request with HTTP, GraphQL, gRPC, WebSockets, so on. We'll use the old trusted HTTP for this example. So remember, I've been tasked with building this AI demo. The first thing I want to build is this ingestion endpoint. I want to see it working. So I have this base URL, and it's a post to the ingest endpoint. This basically will take raw JSON, and then it'll ingest it so that we can query it later. So it has a key and a value. The key is PostCon schedule. The value, I scraped it from the marketing site. Sorry, not sorry, marketing team, is the PostCon schedule that we can then query against directly. So if we click send, we see our first aha moment. This 200 OK, I was able to successfully debug, test, and use this API. Right, and so this core building block of API client builds into even more collaborative surfaces with a collection. So let's take this to the next level. Let's save this request to a collection. So many people think of a collection as just a grouping of requests. And yes, it is that and so much more. You should really think of it as a collaborative surface for things like commenting, documenting, scripts, and so on. And so one of the most underrated features of Postman is the scripting functionality. So we have that 200 OK. We were able to see that with a manual test. But what if we had a scripting capability, a way that we can write a test to assert that that works every time? So we can say, return status code 200 OK. And then we can write an expectation that the response is going to equal 200. We'll go ahead and send. And now we have test results 1 of 1. Return status code 200 OK. And so if I think about the value of testing, I want to optimize not just for myself, but for my team. And I know that to avoid getting a shoulder tap, I should basically write this down, and then the API kind of becomes self-documenting. So now let's introduce the other feature of the chatbot. So this is the ingestion endpoint. Now we want the query endpoint. So it's a get to the prompt endpoint. It takes a query param named query, because I am a very clever namer. And so we have that data from PostCon, so now we can write a query against it. So who is the speaker at PostCon who speaks after Abhinav and Justine? Well, technically it's me, but I think the actual answer here is Gail Frederick, who is the CTO SVP at Heroku and Salesforce. So she'll be discussing API development and collaboration at scale. Can't wait to see her talk. And so when you make a copy of a request like this, so we'll call this prompt, it also copies some of the base elements of the request. So we have a script. And so you can see here, this pm.test returns status code 200 OK, pm.test returns status code 200 OK. This is the exact same code. And so as a developer, whenever I see the exact same code, that's like a developer bat signal to abstract and reuse. And so today we're enabling just that with the package library. So I've already done this, but I have this reusable bit of code, which is basically this like published module, just like you do on NPM, that can be reused in the scripting environment. So now when I have a desire to write this validate status code functionality, if I make it better, if I improve it, if I add console logging, I can make that change once and then reuse anywhere, not dozens or hundreds of changes. So how using that looks is you require it. It looks very similar to like the npm require syntax. And then you get great IntelliSense here. Validate status code, takes a response, and then the status code. We rerun the test, and things still work. Huzzah, right? And so now we have this working endpoint. It has the ingest endpoint, it has the prompt endpoint, and I think we can help out that poor junior engineer who just wants to see how the API works. So I can go ahead and share this to juniorengineer@postman.com. If that was a real alias, she'd probably have hundreds of emails because I've been testing this so much, but it's not. And so, if we think about what we've done thus far, we have these tests, and then now we can show the documentation feature, which I'm going to leverage Postbot for this. So without needing to write any documentation myself, Postbot was able to infer based on the request, the response, what I've already done in Postman, and get a really bang up documentation that I can then, of course, share with that engineer on the team. So let's say that junior engineer now onboards onto Postman, signs in, and she has another question. She looks at this response body and she asks a question, pretend it's her. Hey, does this take just a string or can I pass JSON, right? And so I'm the author of this API. I actually know the answer to this question, and I'm like, hey, that's a great question. Let me use this opportunity to make our API better. So I will add a simple type here. The value can be string or JSON. And the really important thing here is that if you think about with Figma, when you collaborate on the artifact gets better. In Postman, the artifact is the API, and these collaborative workflows generate better APIs, full stop. So just like in Google Docs, now that I've updated the API and the documentation, I can go ahead and resolve this, and we have now made our API better, right? And so I'd like to finally now graduate to the final boss of Postman. So we have API client, collections, and then workspaces. And if we think about what my boss wanted, he just wants updates on how the API is going. So we have a feature for that. And this is the updates feature. So it's tied to the workspace, and then you can deep link into various assets and elements from what you've been updating. So let's say milestone 1, complete. We can embed these two endpoints here. So I'll go ahead and copy the link, and now I can update my boss, any subscribers on this workspace, without needing to go manually update, manual shoulder tap, experience that collaboration friction. So, huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. So we know that not all API collaboration happens on Postman, so we are investing time in integrating with key collaborative tools like Slack, Microsoft, Jira, Confluence, and so on. Our collaboration job is very much not done, and this is what gets us going each and every day. So let's recap what we've seen today. APIs are the core building blocks of collaboration. All documentation improvements make onboarding easier and more effective. All tests help us be confident of the quality of what we're building. All improvements drive API improvements. 10 on a final metaphor, I've shown just the tip of the iceberg. There's many more improvements lurking beneath the surface, all available today. So come talk to us at the booth later if you have any feedback on how we can do things even better. And then you can also meet the team who's building this, not just me who gets to talk about all the great work of the team. So we couldn't be more excited to help you and your teams build a better, more collaborative tomorrow powered by APIs. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause to Dustin for that killer demo. So we have covered how you can streamline collaboration for APIs that you are building with your team or with your partners. However, sometimes you don't want to or have to build every API yourself. That's where the Postman public API network comes in. The public API network has thousands of workspaces by API publishers like Salesforce, Kroger, Discord, and many others, where anyone can discover amazing APIs and get started in just 5 minutes. Today, when a developer wants to get an open source project, they go to GitHub. When a developer wants to get a public API, they go to the largest network of public APIs on the planet, the Postman public network. We have over 100,000 APIs from over 30,000 publishers, giving publishers a chance to reach over 30 million Postman developers and grow their communities. But out of the thousands of APIs on the network, there are a few companies who stand above the rest in terms of developer experience. Today, we want to recognize some of them. Congrats to Brevo, Discord, MasterCard, Qualtrics, and HubSpot for winning the top new API awards. Can we have a round of applause to them? These are APIs that have built a large active community on Postman just in the last year. And next up, we have the Best API Awards. These APIs are loved by developers for their developer experience and have the most usage on the public network. Huge congratulations to Salesforce, Meta, Notion, Zoom, among others, for the Best API Award. We want to make the public network the most trusted place for APIs on the planet. And we are doing this through the Verified Publisher program. If you meet the bar for verification, you get a blue badge. If you're a verified publisher, consumers can trust that the publisher is authoritative, and consumers can have a quick path to their first 200 OK request. Now, you know sometimes you're on a social media platform where you can't really tell which one is the real Taylor Swift, because they all have blue badges. So no, nobody randomly can get a blue badge for your brand on Postman. And we look forward to the day when Taylor Swift is really coming on the Postman network, where she can really be Taylor Swift. She just has to build APIs. So we've heard that getting through authorization is the most painful process of connecting to a public API. Today, we are launching the ability to connect with your public APIs in just one click, and that's through Easy Auth. If you're using a public API that is verified and has Easy Auth, you can start almost instantaneously. No more going through developer portals or reading pages and pages of documentation trying to find out how to connect. I'm excited about trying out all the amazing APIs that are on the public network. So we have talked about how collaboration is possible at the team level. Now I'm going to cover a few things that make API collaboration scalable and secure at even the largest organizations. So let's start with the private network. The Postman Private API Network makes org-wide collaboration possible. It provides a central hub to discover, consume, and track all internal APIs across massive scale for an entire organization. Now, most large customers we talk to have several gateways or disparate developer portals. Now, this leaves developers without a place to find APIs that they need to be using. And if APIs that you have built can't be found, they won't be used. The private API network can complement your existing internal developer portal or your software catalog. Postman's private API network shortens time to first call and time to value for developers at scale. Now, along with new capabilities, we have made significant performance improvements to allow for really large-scale teams to collaborate. We continue to achieve uptime for up to 4 nines for our enterprise offering, and we have made collaboration workflows up to 10x faster for large workspaces, where more than 10,000 users can actively collaborate in a single workspace. Now, security is essential for scalable collaboration as well, and that is another big area of investment for us. Our enterprise offering already comes with several key security features, and now we are adding on more to make your workflow secure. A big challenge we heard from customers is managing API keys and access tokens. And we believe security should be baked in by default into the design of the product. Security features should not interrupt your workflow. So today, I'm excited to announce the launch of Postman Vault. The Postman Vault will allow you to store secrets in an end-to-end encrypted local storage vault. Thank you. We are also announcing integrations with key vault providers like Azure Key Vault, HashiCorp Vault, and AWS Secrets Manager with support for 1Password coming soon. This enables you to securely reuse sensitive data in collections and workspaces. Now, one last thing. We are making investments across the globe. Last year, we announced our new Japan office with the Postman app being available in Japanese. And today, for our customers in the EU region, we are announcing early access to our EU data center. So for customers in the EU region, all your Postman data can be stored within this data center to meet your regulatory obligations. I know you are excited about these capabilities. So let's talk about AI. The rapid adoption of chatbots like ChatGPT has proven that AI bots are going to advance the state of human-computer interaction. As these bots get better, we can imagine that more complex use cases for this technology will emerge. And these new use cases will create new habits, leading to another cycle of technological advancement. We've seen it before, from desktop to mobile, mobile to cloud, and now from cloud to AI. We stand at the next wave of technological advancement that will make us rethink the ways in which we build software for the future. Going forward, all software interfaces will have creative companions that fetch information and data, execute actions on your behalf, or augment tasks that humans are performing. And for developers, it isn't enough to just know how to code anymore. Basic coding is already commoditized through GitHub Copilot. And we believe APIs will become even more important as they power the thinking that the AI is doing. Until now, we have primarily been designing APIs for humans, but designing APIs for machines will become an increasingly important area. To prepare for the wave of APIs that are coming your way, you need to build great APIs. If your organization has poorly designed APIs, you are invisible to those AI bots. APIs need to be as adaptable and friendly to both humans as well as AI bots. So now you're wondering, damn, I got to create even more APIs. Well, at Postman, we believe that humans, so all of us, need to be on top of the intelligence food chain. So why not leverage AI itself for help? I'm excited to show you how you can use AI within Postman to make API development even faster. To show how this works, I'd like to welcome my co-founder, Abhijit Kane, on stage.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Abhijit, one of the co-founders here at Postman. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about Postbot, our all-new AI assistant. We just heard Abhinav talk about the relationship between AI and APIs. We'll now see how you can use Postbot to speed up API development by walking through a sample workflow. Let's say I'm developing a new space launch API. We're all about the space theme here at Postman. I'm going to start off by creating tests and iterating on them. This is exactly how so many users start using Postman. I have a few endpoints that I've created. I have an endpoint to get upcoming launches and one to get launch locations around the globe. We just tried to make that request, but it failed. Let's see how Postbot can help me. Of course, I didn't have the right environment selected. And we can fix that, and I quickly get all launch locations with their coordinates. But this probably isn't the best way to view coordinates. With Postbot, you can instantly create visualizations that depict complex API responses in meaningful ways. Let's try that out. Clearly, the best way to see locations on Earth is a bar chart. I'm just kidding. Let's ask for a map instead. And there you go. That's all the launch locations mapped out in just a few seconds. Now that I've validated that we're getting the right responses, let me add a few tests to ensure that this API always works this way. I bring up Postbot and ask it to write tests for me. I see that it's added a few. They seem reasonable for sure, but one is failing. Let's ask Postbot why that might be. It's because the format for the date is wrong. Happens all the time. Postbot can fix that as well. Great. Now all tests are passing. You could also choose to write tests manually and have Postbot assist you. Let's make sure there's an API contract that we want to enforce. And we quickly see relevant code suggestions added by Postbot without you having to look up syntax or response properties. And I just hit tab to accept the suggestion. And now that I have these tests, I want to document my API for my consumers. We all know how important documentation is, but sometimes we forget. I'm going to ask Postbot to document these endpoints, with emojis thrown in for good measure. And there you go. We quickly get great documentation describing all request and response properties. We have now seen Postbot fix my request, help with API testing, response visualization, and API documentation. I've followed this workflow so many times while building APIs, and it's great to have assistance all through. As I work to finesse and deploy my API, I want to ensure that my front-end team is unblocked. They're waiting to build out the rest of the application. Let's ask Postbot for help. It's asking me to create a mock server. Looks like that might work. It will let prospective consumers of the API get started while we deploy it to production. You can use Postbot to get workflow suggestions across the entire API development lifecycle. Think of Postbot as your constantly evolving AI assistant that's always available to make you more productive while using Postman. Do give Postbot a try and let us know what you think. Thank you.
All right, let's give Abhijit another round of applause for that amazing demo. So if you work for a large company and are drooling to take Postbot for a spin, starting today, enterprises can leverage Postbot Enterprise. Now, how is Postbot Enterprise different? We have heard from customers that their number one concern about AI is the privacy of interactions with these LLMs. Hence, we are partnering with Azure OpenAI to ensure that all Postbot interactions will be isolated and will not be used to train models. Moreover, we leverage content filtering to prevent the output of any harmful content generated through these models so they don't show up in the product. So if you walk away with anything I talked about today, have it be this. Postman is making advancements to drastically speed up development by reducing the collaboration friction on APIs. Second, we covered how you can make API collaboration not only possible, but scalable with security enhancements in Postman. And third, we covered the big investments Postman is making to help you supercharge yourself in the AI API boom. By the way, if any of you are still wondering whether I actually fixed my door, the answer is yes, after 4 hours. I'm not doing that ever again, and all of you are writing APIs first. That's all we have for you in this presentation. I'd like to welcome our next keynote speaker, Gail Frederick, the CTO of Salesforce Heroku. We have an amazing AI panel after that. We have an awesome lineup of amazing speakers over 3 tracks in this conference. And I hope you stick around for our special session, a conversation with Trevor Noah and Casey Newton on the intersection of technology and society. And then later, let me buy you a drink at the after party with T-Pain. Thank you all.